So, what happens when a perfect, elegant, mathematical equation, something designed to predict what people will do, slams right into the messy, unpredictable, and sometimes violent reality of human nature? Well, that's what we're diving into today. This is the story of a man who thought he had it all figured out, only to learn the question itself was way more complicated than he could have ever imagined.
Let's start with our mathematician, Charlie Eppes. This is a guy who is completely 100% confident in his numbers. He's cooked up this equation for the FBI, and he's convinced it can predict the next move of a crew of bank robbers like clockwork. For him, the future is it's written in logic. You see, criminals, like a lot of things in this world, really, they can be creatures of habit, right? Once they figure out a system that works, they tend to stick to it. And when they do, they create this distinct, predictable pattern. And these particular robbers, they had a pattern unlike any other. What made this crew so unique was their MO. I mean, the FBI actually nicknamed them the Charm School Boys. Why? Because they were just astonishingly polite. They never used weapons, never made any threats. You hear stories about them holding the door open for customers on their way out. They were, without a doubt, the most predictable, nonviolent robbers you could possibly imagine. And listen, this wasn't just a one-off. This was their thing. They successfully robbed 16 banks in just 8 months using this exact same, gentle method. The pattern was incredibly strong. I mean, for a mathematician, this was an absolute dream. So Charlie takes all this rock-solid data and plugs it right into his model. And the result? It spits out a precise prediction for the FBI. We're talking pinpointing not just the day, but the specific bank and the time window for the next robbery. The numbers couldn't have been clearer. Okay, so the FBI moves in. They set up a whole perimeter around the bank that the equation pointed to, all ready to make a nice, clean arrest. On the surface, it looks like Charlie's equation is about to be a massive success.
And then, right on schedule, the targets show up. 2 men, matching the description, walk right into the bank. The call comes over the radio, positive ID. Everything is going exactly as the math said it would. The command is given. Go. Agents start to move in for the takedown, fully expecting to arrest 2 polite, unarmed guys. But this is the exact moment where the clean world of the equation ends and the messy real world takes over. And then, just chaos. The whole scene just erupts with automatic gunfire. This isn't a simple robbery anymore. It's a full-blown war zone. That whole charm school persona just shatters in a hail of bullets. And then you hear the words you never want to hear. Agent down. The tragic cost of this miscalculation becomes terrifyingly real. The clean, logical prediction has just led to a bloody, catastrophic outcome. The pattern, it was all a lie. And here's why it went so wrong. Just look at this disconnect. The FBI was expecting 2 polite men. Instead, they were met by a crew of at least 6 highly trained, heavily armed individuals. They expected no weapons. They were facing assault rifles and C4 explosives. They thought they were just stopping a simple robbery, but in reality, they had walked straight into a meticulously planned ambush. So in the aftermath, Charlie is he's shattered. His perfect numbers, his beautiful logic, it led to tragedy. He's struggling to figure out how a pattern that was so clear, so consistent, could be so incredibly wrong. So he turns back to the fundamental principles of science to try and find an answer.
And he lands on this, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Now, in physics, this basically means that the very act of watching a tiny particle, say an electron, actually changes its behavior. You can't measure it without interacting with it in some way. And that interaction itself, it alters its path. You can never be a truly passive observer. And here's the crucial leap. That principle doesn't just apply to electrons. See, the FBI wasn't just watching a pattern from the outside, they became a part of the system. By investigating the Charm School Boys, they had announced their presence. The robbers knew they were being watched, and that observation fundamentally changed their actions, from a simple robbery to a violent, deadly ambush. This realization is just too much for Charlie to handle. The human cost of his equation's failure is absolutely devastating. So he does the only thing he knows how to do. He retreats from the messy, unpredictable real world and escapes back into the pure, clean certainty of mathematics. I mean, think about the question he's facing. It's crippling. If the data that seems so real, so consistent, is actually a trap, how can you ever trust logic again? What do you do when the pattern itself is a lie?
Well, his answer is to find a problem that doesn't have a painful ending, because it has no ending at all. He completely immerses himself in the P versus NP problem, one of the most famous unsolvable problems in all of mathematics. It's a safe place, a place he can work forever without ever having to face a result. But this isn't just about some academic exercise. This is a deep psychological retreat. He's working day and night. He's refusing to help with the case, and he's pushing away everyone who tries to reach out to him. And here's the thing. It's a pattern of his own. This is the exact same thing he did when his mother was dying. He retreated into abstract math to avoid a reality that was just too painful to bear. But you can't retreat from reality forever, right? It took a really important conversation with his father to finally break through that intellectual fortress and force him to confront the one thing he'd been avoiding, the human element. And in this really vulnerable moment, Charlie finally admits why he obsesses over these infinite, unsolvable problems. He works on them so that he never has to reach an end. Because in the real world, things end. People end. It's his way of trying to avoid the finality of loss. And his father gives him this crucial piece of understanding. He tells Charlie that his mother, she always got this about him. She knew that for him, logic and emotion weren't two separate things. His brilliant mind was the tool he used to process a world that was often just too painful to feel directly. And that really brings us to the heart of it all, doesn't it? This story isn't just about catching some criminals. It's a really profound look at the limits of our own predictive models. In a world that's increasingly driven by data and algorithms, it leaves us with this huge critical question. Where does the clean certainty of an equation end? And where does that messy, unpredictable, but absolutely essential human intuition